So the NYPD, and my grandfather was one, is 10,000 light, 10,000 under what they should be. You're going to have another 10,000 out of there. That is going to give license to every violent miscreant to do whatever they want to do, which they're pretty much doing now with the no bail law, okay? And Bragg is the DA, and he doesn't prosecute anything. So it's a free fire zone on crime. The other thing is economics. So where I live is just outside the New York City boundary. Real estate in my town has gone up 20%, 2-0, since Mamdani announced. And that's all New York City selling their places, getting the hell out before he comes in. Because what he's going to do is put draconian taxation on everything, not just your income, but everything's going to double because he's going to boom, boom, boom. New York City tax on this, New York City tax on that. And corporations are going, can't do it. So they're going to go to Tennessee, Florida, Texas, the Carolinas, and the people who have homes in the 5 boroughs are moving to Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, wherever it may be. So that flow out, I estimate to be at 500,000 people in 4 years under Mamdani. 500,000 will leave the New York City area.
All right, joining me today is the host of No Spin News and legendary broadcaster Bill O'Reilly. How do you feel about legendary broadcaster Bill O'Reilly?
One step from the grave. That's what that is. You know, icon, legendary. That means, we know he's not going to be around much longer. We'll be nice to him.
Also Long Island guy. My parents always see you at the beaches of Long Island, at those restaurants on the water. So you're living the good life. Come on.
Well, we work very hard, though. I've been in this business 50 years, 50. And I'm working as hard today as I've ever worked. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
And for people that don't know this, I've mentioned this a couple of times when I've had you on. The first television show I ever did, you were number one. You were the number one show in you were the number one show in cable news history at the time. And you had some kid named Dave Rubin on about 15 years ago, literally the first TV appearance I ever made. So I always thank you for that. Let's dive in. Because how many books is this for you? Do you even know at this point how many books you've written?
Well, we've had 20 number one bestsellers. Confronting Evil opened up number one on the New York Times list. That makes 20. And that's a world record that'll never be broken. And it's not that I'm so great. It's just that people don't read nearly as much as they used to. The second guy who's behind me is Bob Woodward. He's at 14 nonfiction number ones. So I think we're safe at 20. Evil doing really, really well. Not a gentle book. Not an Oprah recommendation book. You'll learn a hell of a lot if you read it, that's for sure. And people need to know that evil is pretty much everywhere now.
All right. Well, I want to spend most of the time talking about the book, and then we'll get to a couple of the issues of the day. I would say you're probably right that no one will beat the 20 because New York Times probably will not even exist as an institution in a couple of years from now. So just the math doesn't even work out for anyone to beat you. But Confronting Evil, I thought the title is great. It's clean. It's straightforward. And the book is about how societies basically fall to the wrong people, the wrong ideas. Kind of timely relative to, say, a New York City mayor who's a communist about to take over?
It's timely because it came out September 9th. The next day I got up, Putin's lobbing missiles into Poland. Putin's on a cover with Mao Zedong and Hitler and Ayatollah. And then 4 hours later, Charlie Kirk's assassinated. And when I was doing interviews in support of the book, people going, that's just eerie. That your book would come out and the next day, all of this stuff, all this hell would break loose. And it struck me hard because I'm not Nostradamus, but I did put this book on the board a year ago because our books take a year to research and write. Because I saw it, the elevation of evil, not only in America, but all around the world. and that good people were looking away. They didn't want to get involved. Once that happens, and it happened in the 1930s, here they come. And very, very hard to stop evil once it gets established.
So that actually was the next question I wanted to ask you. The good people looking away portion. It's so much of what is evil now seems to have burst forth and be fairly obvious to, I think, people on our side of the aisle. But what would you say? What is the marker for the people that just think it's going to pass by them? Is that just built into humanity, that it's just like, bad things are happening, I'll just bury my head in the sand and keep going? Or do you think there's something? Yeah.
The mentality is not going to happen to me. So I can build a wall, a bubble, and I can live in that, and then they're not going to get me. And why do I want to get involved with some messy thing down the block or some neighbor who's selling narcotics but it's always going to get you. We can't avoid evil. No human being does. Everybody gets it. But you can mitigate it if you recognize it. And what I'm seeing in America is this. We have now a political movement, the progressive movement, the far left movement, that wants to destroy all traditions in America. They believe we're a racist country, that we're evil, that the United States is evil because of slavery and because of Jim Crow and the white guys have all the power. You heard it. It goes on and on.
Yep.
Okay? So they say, you're going to blow it all up. All right, this is Mamdani. And then we'll start over again. We'll let all the criminals out because it's not their fault they punched some old lady in the mouth for drug money. No, society made them do that. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be punishing them. All right. So then when you get kind of that misguided philosophy and you get it into the mass media, which is now easy to do because of this,
yep.
That's what happened to Charlie Kirk. All right, you got a problem.
So when you're
the good people have to be more assertive.
Right. Is the problem that the average good person, it just never happens until it's too late? You know, there's always a couple people raising.
Yeah, not everybody, but a lot of people are apathetic. There's two divisions of people who aren't. I put the level of evil in this world at 15%. 15% of people just born bad. That's Cain and Abel in Genesis. Mm-hmm. That story's there for a reason in the Bible. 15% are evil. They're going to hurt you. And they're not going to feel bad about hurting you. The other 85, they got a decision to make. Am I going to be good or am I going to sit it out? Okay? More and more people are sitting it out for two reasons in the United States. Number one is apathy. They're just apathetic. It's like overwhelmed. I can't do anything about it. I got to do what I got to do, and so what if that happens? And the other is stupidity, and I use stupidity as a blanket word. You may not be stupid IQ-wise, but if you don't seek knowledge,
mm-hmm.
if you don't know anything, then you're going to get it right between the eyes. And public schools do not teach history or civics. They don't teach right or wrong at all. They're woke. They're pushing stuff that's insane. And these students are they're hearing all this garbage, and they're not hearing a counter to it. And I believe one of the reasons that I've been so successful as a best-selling nonfiction author on earth is because I am a counter to it. I will tell you the truth. I'm not an ideologue. I don't bother with parties, but I do bother with fact-finding and telling you, here's really what's true. You don't get that in schooling, so therefore these kids get out in the real world, they don't know anything.
So speaking of fact-finding, while doing the research, and I'm sure you had a good team with you that was, diving into some of the historical stuff here, was there anything that really shocked you about any of these regimes and these bad guys and bad ideas that come, or is it just sort of a consistent theme of sort of collectivism and centralized power, or was there something that really jarred you as you guys were doing the research?
Well, every book I've written, I've learned an enormous amount about the subject, but I've been around. I've been to 86 countries, covered 4 wars. I've seen evil up close. I know what it is. So I wasn't stunned in the general sense. But when you look at what Mao Zedong and what he did to his own people, 20 million, many of whom starved to death because of him. And when I was invited to go to Beijing in May to address the Chinese government over there, and they invited me because of YouTube, because they watch me and they know that I have access to President Trump and that I am not a BSer. And they wanted to ask me questions. So I did fly over at my own expense. I brought my 21-year-old political science major son with me. And we spent 3 hours with the Politburo. But while I was in Beijing, there are pictures of Mao Zedong all over the place. Can you imagine if an American killed 20 million Americans?
Right.
I don't think his picture's going to be everywhere. So, but the Chinese people have no clue. No idea what happened. They have no access to the internet, no access to accurate history. They know who the government hates, and they know what the government wants them to think. And they know if they don't think that, they can get in serious trouble fast.
So where do you think we are? This is a slight sidebar then, but in that you were just there, where do you think we're at with China at the moment?
I think détente is possible. They would have invited me over there if there was a hard line drawn and they wanted conflict. They got 1.5 billion people to feed, and they don't have 401ks, Dave. They're not going to Vegas, okay? I mean, it's subsistence. They got to eat every day. They need our markets. Chinese is an export economy. They have to sell their hats and shirts here.
Yep.
So they need us. So they want to find some way to coexist. But I elevated it so you should be our partner. And I actually had a written thing I gave them, Partnership for Peace and Prosperity between China and the United States. And we are not going to change them. And Trump doesn't care about that anyway. But if we, the two most powerful nations, would join together, we could fight a lot of evil. I mean, Chinese have to stop the shenanigans, but I think they would, given the right incentives.
You talk in the book, you talk a bit about the moral struggle between good and evil. And I'm wondering, in a time where we're all on this thing, where we're all being hit with Instagram, TikTok, all the crazy stuff that's coming through and the gender confusion and everything else, where do you think Americans should be getting a moral, well, let's ask it this way. Do you think politicians have any responsibility to be giving a moral guidance, or should that purely be coming from, say, like a religious perspective?
Well, they can't give moral guidance because most of them are immoral. So how can they do that? But they can certainly lay out standards of behavior. And that is very important in the public arena. Because, look, in New York City, where I am, you can sell heroin, fentanyl on the street, and nobody's going to arrest you. And even if they do take you in, you can get prosecuted. That's flat out wrong. You're selling poison to people. You're killing people, enslaving people. Children are getting abused. And you're not going to do anything about it? Come on. That's the kind of stuff where politicians have to get loud. And most of them are cowards. And it's like the clerics. So I'm Catholic. I still go to church every Sunday. And when I was in Catholic school, there was a clear right and wrong. Okay? You do this, you go to heaven. You do this, it's going to be a little hot for you. Gone. Okay, that's gone. So religion is dissipated to a stunning degree. And a lot of kids don't ever hear about it. They don't know what the Bible is. They don't know what standards of behavior, that is easily imparted by politicians and clerics. But a lot of them are just afraid to do it.
So since you mentioned you are in New York City, and Mamdani, a guy who I think is replicating a lot of the ideas that some of the people you've written about in the book brought to fruition, how bad do you think New York City will actually get if he becomes mayor?
Well, Mamdani is doing the Fidel Castro playbook almost word for word. So you remember in the late 1950s, there was a dictator running Cuba named Batista. You saw The Godfather 2,
Yep.
And that was pretty accurate. Batista's in pocket of the mafia, organized crime. Horrible, horrible. And the Cuban people had nothing. Castro's charismatic guy. He's got the little beret. Comes in and says, look, I'm getting this guy out of here. We're going to have a fair economy. We're all going to be better. Vote for me. And you really don't have to vote because we're going to take it over. We got more guns now. And that's what Castro did. Mamdani, I think, has studied Castro's speeches because the same patterns are in play. Oh, I'm not a communist. Oh, no, I'm a democratic socialist. Oh, that's a bunch of crap. He would confiscate everything you have, Dave, like that if he could.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
All right, that's what he wants. He wants to confiscate private property. He wants the government to run everything and to give to the have-nots or whatever it may be. Okay. If he's elected, then two things happen right away. The police department dissolves because even now, many experienced officers are retiring, looking for other work. They're trying to get out.
They're down here with us in Florida, Bill. That's where they've all come.
There's a lot of people going to Florida. So the NYPD, and my grandfather was one, is 10,000 light, 10,000 under what they should be. You're going to have another 10,000 out of there. That is going to give license to every violent miscreant to do whatever they want to do, which they're pretty much doing now with the no bail law, okay? And Bragg is the DA, and he doesn't prosecute anything. So it's a free fire zone on crime. The other thing is economics. So where I live is just outside the New York City boundary. Real estate in my town has gone up 20%, 20, since Mamdani announced. And that's all New York City selling their places, getting the hell out before he comes in. Because what he's going to do is put draconian taxation on everything, not just your income, but everything's going to double because he's going to boom, boom, boom. New York City tax on this, New York City tax on that. And corporations are going, can't do it. So they're going to go to Tennessee, Florida, Texas, the Carolinas, and the people who have homes in the 5 boroughs are moving to Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, wherever it may be. So that flow out, I estimate to be at 500,000 people in 4 years under Mamdani. 500,000 will leave the New York City area.
And take the tax money with them, which then will only further
They're all affluent people. Right.
What do you think about the class welfare or the class warfare problem that it will also create? To me, this will end sort of like the end of Gangs of New York or the end of Dark Knight Rises, where why wouldn't the poor people of downtown be ransacking the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side and taking back what is, rightfully theirs? Do you see that it will, or would you predict that it would end in that type of violence?
That would be irresponsible to predict that. With the diminished police presence, possible. But I wouldn't predict it. Social order is something that most people want. Even poor people want it. They don't want to have to go out and fear for their lives, and their children can't even go to school. So if I had a bet, I would say that would not happen. What will happen is a terrible rise in individual crime and a depravity, public depravity, homeless, drug addicts running all over the place, you name it. That'll rise to record levels, so quality of life will just fall apart.
What do you think?
That's the scenario.
What do you think Mamdani really wants? If we were really trying to steel man his arguments the best we could, what do you think he is actually trying to accomplish in New York City?
Well, he wants power. And that's a commonality of all politicians. They want power. But he's only 33 years old. I wouldn't even put him in charge of a Burger King.
Right.
Because he's not. And the reason I'm not saying that because he's a communist or whatever. There's some brilliant communists. But he doesn't have any record of being able to achieve anything. So you and I have achieved. So Rubin O'Reilly, we've achieved. All right, we've done stuff that's been successful. It's come out of our operation, our heads, and it's worked. What has Mamdani done?
He's been a marginal legislator in Albany. That's it. And his mom's rich.
Look, you could be selling hot dogs and be a marginal legislator.
Right.
It's not, you don't need a PhD. All you need is a car to show up. These are brilliant people up there in Albany.
So let me ask you this. Let's leave New York for a moment, because you've had some interesting comments. We've been playing a lot of clips of JB Pritzker lately, and I've been very critical of him, but I don't think it's quite reached the level of critical that you've been hitting this guy on. You, if I'm not mistaken, think he is worse than Newsom. Is that correct?
Oh,
and Newsom, I basically think is the devil incarnate. I don't know if you've ever heard me go off on him. So sell me why JB Pritzker is worse. And remember, I left California basically single-handedly because of that guy. Explain how he is worse.
Well, Newsom is an opportunist, and he sold his soul for power, and he is a destructive force in California. But he's not totally irrational. You can have a conversation with Newsom. Pritzker is so invested in hatred for not only Trump, but anybody who opposes him, that he's at a different level. Now, Newsom can get hateful, but Pritzker lives there. Now, Pritzker knows that he's failed across the board in Illinois, people leaving the state. Chicago is 4,000 dead, murdered under his regime. 4,000, 80% African Americans. Trump called him about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, and said, look, I want you to call out the guard, the governor of Illinois, and let's work together. I'll send in the feds, the FBI will come down, flood the zone in the South Side, where the murders, most of them are taking place. You use the state, I'll use the feds, we'll wipe it out. And that's what Trump did. And Pritzker gave him the finger. Now remember, Pritzker has not solved anything. He has allowed this carnage to take place for 6 years. The drug gangs control those neighborhoods. Totally. Control them. And now he's lashing out against Trump as Hitler, Trump is this, Trump is that, because Pritzker knows that it's his failure that has caused all of this. So I place him at another level above a Newsom, who's basically a guy who, he wants to be president. He'll say whatever he has to say to get there. Is he malevolent? I can't make that call. Is Pritzker malevolent? Yes, I can make that call.
What do you think a guy like Pritzker is thinking when he sees the numbers? I mean, you're right about the 4,000 in 6 years. It's 7,000 in 10 years. I mean, that's 700 dead people in Chicago.
Yeah, 7,000.
Yeah, it's just insane. I mean, when him and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, sit down, do you think this is sort of an offshoot of their earlier question, but do you think they are doing a good job? What do they think is happening there?
Well, they live in a world of denial. So anything that doesn't fit into their preconceived notions, people believe what they want to believe. And so they're never going to admit to themselves that they're failures, ever. It's always going to be somebody else's fault, or it doesn't exist. No, it's not going on. It's like Oregon. That's what they do in Portland. No, even though Portland, and I worked there as an anchorman, they have a base, an Antifa base there. And Antifa is basically, they're different from the street criminals. They want to blow the whole thing up. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Portland is ground zero for them. That's where they live. Now, they don't have a building. You can't go into, like the Knights of Columbus. You can't go into the Antifa building for lunch. All right? But they're there. Okay? And then you say to the governor of Oregon, hey, you got a big problem with these people. They're organized, and a lot of them are being paid to go out and stir up anarchy. And the government goes, no, they're not. What do you do?
No, it's incredible. I know. They don't want you to see what you can see right before your eyes.
Right. And there have been reported, a guy named David Nigg, NG, did a big thing, unbelievably well documented, about how this whole thing, this Antifa thing, works. And, but there's a governor go, no, it's not here. Okay. What are you going to do then? There's nothing you can do.
I know you're on limited time, so let me just ask you let's hit one other topic. Just the general state of media at the moment, as a guy that was the king of cable news, which is that what the commercial said? The commercial said the king of late? No, what was it? What'd they call you? What were all the commercials?
I guess king of cable.
King of cable.
Right.
Yeah, so that stuff. And you had it for years and years and years and years. That's
16.
now you're doing the online thing, obviously very successfully. What do you make of the general state of our media, new media versus old media? Do you think old media has any value left? Are there holes in new media? What's your general take?
Well, it's a generational thing. So if you're over 70 years old, you consume what they call linear television. So you have the clicker, you have the martini, 8 o'clock, you want to watch Jesse Waters or whoever you want to watch. That's what you do. All right. So it's 70 to death is watching network and cable in prime time. Below 70, very, very few. And the younger it goes, the fewer are watching. And that's not going to change. And the reason it's not going to change is because network and cable news is essentially dull. It's boring. When I did The Factor and we were number one for 16, we had the highest ratings ever, and nobody will ever top them. It's like the 20 number one bestsellers. I wanted people who were smart to oppose me on whatever the subject was. My orders were, get the smartest person you can get to come up against me, because it's fun to watch that.
Yeah.
Now, the toughest question is, tell me more. Did they bring in the people who agree with them? And by 20 minutes in, you're like this.
And by the way, to that point, when you had me on I ended up being on a couple times, but when you had me on the first, it was to debate you. It was about something about Chick-fil-A going to Chicago or something. And and we debated. I mean, and it got a little hostile, but it's all good.
Well, we didn't like hostility, and a lot of that was my fault. I might get a little exuberant sometimes. As I get older, I moderated that a little bit.
Only if the prompter's not working. Only if the prompter's not working. We've all seen the video.
The prompter's not working. You got a problem with me. But anyway, what I brought and what was in vogue for a while was really robust debate. Gone.
Yeah.
Replaced by nothing. And that is why all of the media, television media, and the newspapers have declined. Because not only do they not seek opposing points of view, they're exclusionary. So I'm the best-selling nonfiction author in the world. I can't get on the CBS Sunday morning program.
Yep.
Even though I would deliver much higher ratings than they have. The books are selling millions of copies, but Jane Pauley won't put me on. Now, that's a form of censorship, and it's certainly not freedom of the press. They don't do it. Even a guy like Jon Stewart has changed a little bit. Me and him, legendary debates, and fabulous. You don't see him do that much anymore. Okay, and, I'm giving him jazz about it. So I think that the nation is lesser because of this exclusion of an opposing point of view. And they do it on the right, too. The right, they want to hear their own speech. So, it's like a cast of the same people every night. How many times are you going to say at the end of the day, It's up to like 10,000 a week now.
Well, then we have our work cut out for us. My last question is this. Has Waters ever credited you for all of his mannerisms?
Yes.
He has? Okay,
because...
okay, good. Because every time I'm on the show with him, I'm like, he knows he's doing a Bill O'Reilly impression, right?
He's very respectful.
Okay, good.
He knows that look, I trained a lot of people at Fox. A lot of the producers behind the scenes, and you come through me, you're a Navy SEAL. You get through it's rigorous here. This is how you do it. You mentioned top of the interview, the research that we did for Confronting Evil. You're not going to get research like that anywhere else. And you got to be disciplined to get it. You got to know how to present it. And so if you get through me, if you have me on your resume, you're going to get a good job. Because people know that you know what you're doing. So Waters, I'm happy for his success. He's a talented television guy. The older women love him. I said, look, I mean, if you...
Apparently his mom's not so thrilled with him, but the other women, I guess the other women really love him. Bill, it's a pleasure as always. Let me get this all correct. 20 #1 bestsellers, 16 years #1 cable news, multiple-time Rubin Report. Pretty good, man.
We're very fortunate. We work hard, and I appreciate you having me on, Dave. Have fun in Australia. That should be a very interesting experience for you. And if you learn anything down there, let me know. I'll put you on the No Spin News.
Absolutely. All right, I'll see you on the other side. Thanks, Bill. If you're tired of the mainstream media circus and want more honest conversations, go check out our media playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a wide variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.